Hi, my name is Haley Hartford Murray of Hartford Family Winery, and I'm so excited that tonight we're partnering with Braeburn Country Club to bring you this evening's wonderful and delicious wine dinner. I would love to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the history of my family's winery and a little bit about the wines that you'll be tasting. The winery was founded in 1994 by my parents Dawn and Jenny Hartford, and we specialize in making single vineyard designated Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Old Vine Zinfandel. We're based in Russian River Valley of Sonoma County, California, and while we started out with just a handful of vineyard sites, over the years we've actually expanded to start exploring new regions and make wines from vineyards as far north as Oregon and then all the way down south into Santa Barbara AVAs. So really what drove us to do this exploration was how excited we were by the way that different climates and terroirs impact the way a wine tastes. So what we're looking for are vineyard sites that are very expressive of their unique climates and terroirs, but also what we like to say are high personality or extreme personality wines. So no matter the vintage, there's something really compelling and dynamic about that site and the climate, the specificity of it, that drives characteristics that are there vintage to vintage. So when you put your nose to the glass of one of our wines, we hope that it's like meeting an old friend. So for instance, with the Four Hearts Chardonnay that you'll actually be tasting soon in moments, there's something about it that always brings this, about that site, that drives this really beautiful orange blossom aromatic in the nose and very lush, juicy yellow apple, some quince, bright acidity, as well as a finish that I like to say is it's almost mineral driven and almost like crystallized ginger, which is just so tasty and juicy and makes me always want to take another sip. And those are things that, as I said, we find no matter what the vintage or seasonal differences were. And so those are things that we love to explore. And as you go through the tasting, I hope you'll find that they're very compelling and make you want to take another sip as well. Now I thought I'd get into the wines that you'll be tasting this evening. You'll be trying our Russian River Valley Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Old Vine Zinfandel, as well as two wines that are two vineyard blends, our Four Hearts Chardonnay vineyards that I mentioned before, and our Land's Edge Vineyards Pinot Noir. So starting with the Russian River Valley Chardonnay, this is a wine that we started making about 10 or so years ago, and because the single vineyard bottlings that we make are such small production, they're only averaging about 300 to 400 cases on average, it means that there's not a lot of them to find out in the world. We sell them almost entirely direct to consumers in our wine club and our tasting room. And so by making these Russian River Valley wines, we're able to blend multiple of our beautiful single vineyards together that are based in Russian River Valley to make a wine that is really representative of everything we love most about that region. Things that I love most about it, and I have it in my glass right now, is the beautiful balance that it has. It has the lovely citrus fruit that is so signature to Russian River Valley, while also having a beautiful depth and roundness to the mouthfeel, and a really nice lushness to it. And then that nice lift of acidity because of that bright citrus fruit in it as well. One thing that we look for in crafting all of our wines, whether they be a single vineyard or a vineyard that will become part of these Russian River Valley wines, the blends, is to make sure that what we're doing in the winemaking process is highlighting and augmenting those characteristics that we've come to love so much about the individual sites, rather than becoming a winemaking style or distinct driving force. So I think especially in this Russian River Valley Chard, I've had a lot of people that we've tasted with over the years comment on how integrated the oak is. And at Hartford, we do love to use a little bit of oak on all of our wines, all three varietals, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Old Vine Zinfandel. But we don't want it to be the very first characteristic that you smell or taste. We want it to be used almost like a chef would use a spice and help bring and highlight out those characteristics that we love so much and find so charming. So I hope that as you sniff and you taste these wines that you'll agree that they're all very pretty and balanced and very exciting and distinctive. So with the Russian River Valley Chard, as I said, it's that citrus-driven fruit, really pretty brightness of acidity, and very mouth-watering finish. The Four Hearts Chardonnay is the second wine that you'll be tasting, and I think it's paired with the first course as well. So you'll be tasting the two Chardonnays side by side with that first course, which I think is actually a really exciting thing to do, because you start to notice when you taste two of the same varietal side by side, you start to notice those differences even more sharply in a way. And so I think while the Russian River Valley Chardonnay tends to have even more of those really pretty lemon drop and some of that what we like to call Gravenstein apple. It's our local apple here in Russian River. The Four Hearts Chardonnay, actually, when you taste them side by side, some of these really interesting like pear qualities come out that I think are really lush and highlight some of that texture that the Four Hearts has as well. Four Hearts tends to be a very textural sort of Chardonnay. So I hope you enjoy those two as well. And then you'll get to move into the Pinot Noirs also. The Pinot Noirs, the first Pinot that you'll be tasting is our Russian River Valley Pinot Noir, sister wine to the Russian River Valley Chardonnay, made in much the same way. We'll go into some of our absolute favorite single vineyards throughout Russian River Valley and blend them together to create a really beautiful representation of Russian River Valley Pinot Noir. I think you'll find some really beautiful raspberry aromatics right off the bat, and right on the nose. But also underneath it, what we always look for in a great Russian River Valley Pinot is a little hint of earth. And to me, in this Russian River Valley Pinot, it's almost like fresh plowed earth, or like you're digging in your garden in the springtime. It's very clean and bright and a little bit more complexing. Lots of beautiful dark fruit follow on the palate, and then I think it ends with some really beautiful spice notes, like clove, allspice, cinnamon, which are really also dynamic and tasty. So I hope you enjoyed that one. And then fourth wine that you'll be tasting is our Land's Edge Pinot Noir. And this is actually a really great example of what we like to say are our high-risk, high-reward vineyard sites. And that's because there's certain vintages that we're not able to make wines from these vineyard sites that go into that blend. So Land's Edge is a blend of our two most coastal vineyard sites. So they're only about 6 to 7 miles in from the ocean, and made from our Seascape Pinot Noir and our Far Coast Pinot Noir vineyards. Seascape, because it's right on the edge of the ocean. The fog rolls in, it's the first place it hits, and it's one of the last place it leaves. So it acts like a refrigerator for this vineyard site, and it makes it really difficult in certain vintages where the weather is very cold for us to get the grapes ripe enough that we think it will make a quality wine. So there's some vintages where we run the risk that we won't be able to make it, but in the years that we can, it is so distinctive and dynamic and absolutely delicious that we can't help ourselves. So again, Land's Edge is really interesting blend of that Seascape site as well as our Far Coast site. And when they come together, I think it makes a wine that is in some ways even more elegant than either of the two single vineyards. There's really beautiful rose petal, black tea leaf on the nose, really gorgeous dark cherry fruit with some pretty high tones to it as well. And then this really beautiful finish to the wine, and that is also really interesting fine grain texture, I think driven by the integration of tannin and minerality. The Far Coast Vineyard site is actually up on a mountaintop that is uplifted ancient seafloor from millions of years ago. So when you walk around on that vineyard site, you'll find little remnants of seashells and crustaceans that are fossilized throughout it. So it makes it a really interesting and dynamic wine and brings a really beautiful polish to the texture. Finally, the last wine of the evening is our Old Vine Zinfandel from Russian River Valley, and this is a blend of the 5 single vineyard Zinfandels that we make. all of the Zinfandel that we make are from vineyards that are over 100 years old, and the oldest is now 120 years old. So you get this beautiful concentration of flavor from vineyards that are that old, and then all sorts of layers of complexity and spice because of the age of those vines. So there's sort of three things that we think are really distinguishing about our Zinfandels. The first is that age of the vine. Because the vines are struggling to get just a couple clusters ripe, you get that beautiful concentration of flavor, beautiful, rich, juicy character to it. But the second is that we're in Russian River Valley, and Russian River is a very cold growing region for Zinfandel. If you think of other regions famous for growing Zinfandel, Paso Robles, Dry Creek, up to our north, even Lodi or Napa, they're anywhere from 10 to 30 degrees warmer than us on average, which is a lot. And so you end up with fruit here in Russian River retaining a lot more acidity. So even though you get lots of that blackberry compote, beautiful black cherry and raspberry character, you have this real beautiful brightness to it. So it's almost more like a fresh picked blackberry or fresh picked raspberry than it is that blackberry jam. So you end up with it being able to pair with food, I think, in a lot more balanced way, because you have these bright high tones to it, and it's a little bit brighter and more lively on the mouth as well. The third thing that we think is really interesting and distinguishing about our Zinfandel is our winemaking technique. We actually treat our Zinfandels like our Pinot Noirs. So instead of treating it like a Cabernet or a Bordeaux varietal, where you would rough up the grapes in the winemaking process, so you would mix the tanks pretty rigorously in order to get that really good extraction and great skin-on juice contact. When you do that to a thinner skin varietal like Pinot Noir or Zinfandel relative to a Bordeaux, you end up shearing those really delicate skins and driving this tannin characteristic that is harsher, greener, more like a burlap grip on your tongue than it is like velvet. Our family likes to say that we're moving the needle from burlap to linen. Maybe we don't get all the way to velvet as you would hope for with a Pinot Noir, but it's that effort of making a more refined and being more gentle with the grapes that we think drives a little bit more nuanced and, as I said, refined style of Zinfandel. So you get a really beautiful Zin from those winemaking techniques, and we think it really sets our Zinfandels apart. So I hope that you enjoy all of those wines tonight, paired with your delicious foods. And if you are able to come out to California, we hope to see you here in the future. And we'll certainly be out to see you as soon as possible. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and cheers.